Can you imagine your own sister throwing your wedding invitations in the trash and then watching your parents let her get away with it? Well, that's exactly what happened to me. But what they didn't know was that I had evidence, and I was about to expose everything. The Montgomery estate during Christmas usually smells like pine and cinnamon, but that night, it might as well have been formaldehyde. I stood in the living room, my fingers gripping a cream-colored gift box, staring at what was inside. A lifetime VIP membership to Last Chance Love, an app for desperate singles over 30. And underneath it, a hardcover book, How to Find Happiness When You Die Alone. Outside, snow fell silently, blanketing the manicured grounds. But inside that room, the cold had nothing to do with December. My sister, Bella, giggled. It was a high, sharp sound, echoing off the vaulted ceiling like breaking glass. I saw it on TikTok, she purred, her voice dripping with false sweetness. The reviews were amazing. 5 stars for women who've given up on traditional dating. I didn't look up. I just stared at that horrible pink app card, the cartoon illustration of a wilting flower that was supposed to represent me. Women who've supposedly expired. Take it, dear. My mother, Trinity Montgomery, chimed in. She was perched on an ivory settee, so rigid, she could have been carved from marble. Bella's just worried about your future. Don't let your ego turn you into a spinster forever. My father, Richard Montgomery, said nothing. He stood by the bar cart, swirling bourbon, studying the amber liquid like it held answers he wasn't interested in sharing with me. His business partner, Harrison Sterling, shifted uncomfortably. Preston Sterling, Bella's fiancé, became very interested in his phone. I closed the box slowly. My hands didn't shake, but something inside my chest felt like it was cracking open. 8 months. It had been 8 months since I sent those invitations. 8 months since I spent 3 evenings at my dining table in Austin, choosing the perfect cardstock, tying velvet ribbons by hand. 300-gram weight. The kind that whispers quality. My husband, Nate, had watched me from the doorway, arms crossed. Are you sure you don't need to call them? He'd asked. I'd just smoothed another ribbon. They're my parents. They wouldn't miss this. That memory sat in my throat like a stone. I delayed the ceremony for 30 minutes, staring at those 2 empty chairs in the front row. Reserved for Dad. Reserved for Mom. The signs I'd painted myself, decorated with wildflowers because my mother once mentioned she liked daisies. 7 years ago. I remembered everything they forgot. Well, Bella leaned forward, her blonde hair cascading in a calculated tumble. Her engagement ring, a 3-carat diamond that cost more than my entire wedding, caught the firelight. Aren't you going to say thank you? The word stuck. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted to run out those massive oak doors like I had so many times before. Fly home to Austin, where Nate was probably heating up leftover Thai food and wondering if I was okay. But I was so tired of running. Harrison Sterling cleared his throat. Perhaps we should move on to dinner, he suggested, his voice carefully neutral. Bella's smirk widened. She knew she'd won this round. She always did. Except this time, something inside me didn't break. It snapped. Not my heart, which had been breaking in this house since I was old enough to understand that some children are treasured and others are merely tolerated. No, what snapped was something harder. The chains I'd been dragging around for 29 years. The ones labeled good daughter and second best and maybe if you try harder. I looked up. My eyes met Bella's, and I watched her triumphant expression falter. There was something in my face she didn't recognize. Something cold. Clean. Final. Thank you, Bella, I said. My voice came out smooth, almost pleasant. I'll keep this very carefully. I tucked the box under my arm, holding it against my ribs like evidence. Because that's exactly what it was. Trinity frowned. Caroline, don't be dramatic. It's just a thoughtful gift. Oh, I know. I smiled. The expression felt strange on my face, like I was wearing someone else's mouth. It's very thoughtful, very valuable. Richard finally looked at me, his gray eyebrows drawing together. Caroline, it's a warning. The same tone he used when I was 16 and dared to suggest Bella shouldn't get a BMW for her first car when I'd received a 10-year-old Honda. The tone that meant, don't make a scene, don't embarrass us, don't exist too loudly. This space is meant for your sister to shine. I held his gaze. Yes, Dad. He opened his mouth, closed it, and turned back to his bourbon. Preston Sterling stood abruptly. I need some air, he muttered, heading for the French doors. Bella's smile finally cracked. Preston, it's freezing. He paused, then sighed, rejoining the procession to the dining room. But he was already gone, in a way. He was uncomfortable. Any decent person would be. At the dining room table, the chandelier cast diamond patterns across the white linen. Trinity tapped her spoon against her crystal water glass. Before we begin, my mother announced, pitching her voice for an audience, I want to toast this very special season, the year of the bride. Bella straightened in her chair, her practiced smile blooming. My youngest daughter, Trinity continued, gesturing with her wine glass, will be married this February in what I can only describe as a modern royal event. 300 guests, the ballroom at the Four Seasons, a dress that took 6 months to design. Preston shifted beside Bella, his jaw tight. Harrison Sterling studied his salad fork with the intensity of an archaeologist. Bella has always known how to do things properly, Trinity said, and that word landed on my skin like a slap. With grace, with consideration for family. My father lifted his bourbon, agreeing. He hadn't looked at me since we sat down. I cut into my filet mignon. Trinity set down her glass. Her gaze swung to me. I knew that glint. She was about to perform. Bella is settled, she said, dripping with manufactured concern. But what about you, Caroline? You're approaching 30. You can't plan to live with plants forever. Can you? The table went silent. Even the catering staff froze. When is it your turn? Trinity asked. The question hung in the air like smoke. I felt Preston's eyes flick to me, then away. Harrison cleared his throat, but said nothing. Bella leaned forward, her expression a caricature of sisterly interest. But I knew her. I saw the anticipation in her curled fingers. She was waiting for me to crumble, to stammer. I set down my silverware. The clink echoed. I'm not single, Mother. My voice was calm, steady, like I was commenting on the weather. I've been married for 8 months. My mother's face went through 3 distinct expressions in 2 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, rage. Liar. The word exploded out of her. Her hand slammed the table. Why would no one know about this? You secretly eloped in Vegas, didn't you? Is that why you've been so distant? I didn't elope in Vegas. Bella's face had gone pale, but she recovered fast. Are you making up stories to ruin my engagement party? Her voice cracked perfectly. You've always been jealous of me, Caroline, but this is pathetic even for you. She turned to Preston. Can you believe this? But Preston was looking at me, his attorney's brain clearly running calculations. I sent invitations, I said, my voice unchanged. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I sounded almost bored. Via FedEx overnight. In February. My father's glass hit the table hard. Bourbon sloshed. If you sent invitations and didn't get a reply, why didn't you call? His face was flushed, a vein pulsing in his temple. You did this on purpose, didn't you? To embarrass this family in front of the Sterlings. And there it was. The truth I'd been circling for 8 months. They didn't forget. They were gaslighting me, rewriting history right in front of witnesses, while I sat there holding the receipts they didn't know existed yet. The last thread of hope I'd been clutching dissolved. Something shifted inside my chest. The architect in me took over. The part that knows how to read blueprints, calculate load-bearing walls, and understand exactly where pressure needs to be applied for a structure to fail. I stopped trying to defend myself with emotions. They don't care about my feelings. They never have. Under the table, hidden by the linen, I slid my phone from my clutch. My thumb found Nate's message thread. I typed one word. Now. The message showed as delivered, then read. I put my phone away and picked up my fork, spearing a piece of asparagus like nothing happened. Caroline. My mother's voice had that dangerous quality now. The one that used to send me running to my childhood bedroom. Stop this nonsense and apologize to your sister. For what? I took a bite of asparagus. It tasted like nothing. For getting married? For inviting my family to my wedding? Which part needs an apology? Bella's eyes were bright with tears that hadn't fallen yet. She was good at this. I can't believe you'd lie about something like this. On Christmas Eve. I'm not lying. Then prove it, my father snapped. I met his eyes across the table. Okay. Harrison Sterling shifted, clearly wishing he was anywhere else. Preston had gone very still. The chandelier caught on my wedding band. I'd been wearing it this whole time. They never even noticed. Dessert will be ready in 15 minutes, one of the catering staff announced, oblivious. My phone buzzed against my thigh. A text from Nate. System accessed. Ready when you are, any tonight. I looked up at the 85-inch smart TV mounted above the fireplace in the adjoining sitting area, currently displaying a digital fire log. Actually, I said, standing. I think we should skip dessert tonight. I walked toward the TV, my heels clicking. Caroline, sit down. My mother's voice had that edge. The one that used to make me shrink. Not tonight. I stopped in front of the TV, my back to the room. You always believe Bella unconditionally, I said, my voice calm, almost conversational. But have you forgotten what my husband does for a living? Silence. I turned. Nathaniel Vance. Senior cybersecurity analyst. He works for a firm that protects Fortune 500 companies from data breaches. Trinity's mouth opened, closed, opened again. I don't see what that has to do with anything. Don't you? I pull my phone from my clutch, holding it up. 3 letters glowed. Now. Sent 18 minutes ago. Delivered. The TV screen flickered. Bella's head snapped up. Her tears forgotten. What are you doing? The virtual fire log cut out. The screen went black for 2 seconds. Then it lit up again, displaying something entirely different. A computer desktop. Blue background. Neat rows of folders. Remote access activated appeared in small white text. What is this? Richard's voice went hard. Turn that off. I designed the electrical system for this house. I keep my tone pleasant, almost chatty, like I'm discussing the weather. Did you know you hired me fresh out of grad school? Paid me exposure and family discount rates. I installed every smart system, every camera, every sensor. I turned back to the screen, watching as the cursor moved without anyone touching it. Nate. Working from our home office in Austin. His fingers flying across keys 2,000 miles away. The admin password was never changed. I continued. I recommended you change it. Remember? I sent that email twice. Harrison Sterling leaned forward, caught between fascination and horror. Preston had gone very still. This is illegal. Bella's voice cracked, not with tears this time, but with panic. Actually, it's not. I didn't look at her. I'm the system administrator on record. I have full legal access. Nate is simply helping me retrieve my own files. Trinity stood, her chair scraping. Files? What files? The cursor moved to a folder. Its label made Bella gasp. Project Truth. When you dismissed my career as playing with plants, I said quietly, you forgot I'm an architect. Architect's plan. We think 3 steps ahead. We build systems designed to last. My father's face went red. You had no right to put cameras in our home without telling us. I told you. My voice stayed level. I gave you a 40-page manual. You signed off on everything. There's a camera at the front door, one at the side entrance, one covering the driveway. All disclosed, all legal, all recording to a professional NVR system in your wine cellar. What's an NVR system? Trinity's voice sounded smaller now. Network video recorder. I finally turned to look at her. It's not cloud storage that deletes after 6 months. It's physical hard drives. Professional-grade data retention. For 2 years. I watched the color drain from Bella's face. She understood. She was doing the math. You're bluffing, she whispered. I turned back to the screen. The cursor hovered over the folder. Do you remember February 12th, Bella? I asked, my voice almost gentle. It was a Tuesday. Cold. You were wearing your cream cashmere coat. The FedEx driver arrived at 10:15 a.m. Stop it. Bella's voice rose. Mom, make her stop. The package was blue. I continued. Express overnight. 4 velvet boxes inside, wrapped in ivory ribbon. My wedding invitations. Preston's head turned toward Bella slowly, like he was seeing her for the first time. Turn it off, Bella screamed. Mom, make her turn it off. But Trinity was frozen, hands pressed to her throat, eyes locked on the screen. It was too late anyway. I hit enter on my phone. Nate, receiving the signal, opened the folder. The first image filled the screen in perfect high definition. A FedEx receipt. Signature line clearly visible. Isabella Montgomery, signed in her distinctive looping handwriting. Date: February 12th. Time: 10:15 a.m. The dining room exploded into chaos. But I just stood there, phone in hand, watching my sister's carefully constructed world begin to crack. And I felt nothing but cold, clean satisfaction. That's my signature, Bella said immediately. Her voice had lost its hysterical edge, replaced by something flatter, more dangerous. So what? I signed for package. That doesn't prove anything except that I was home that day. She was recovering faster than I expected. Evidence 1, I said, my voice clinical, like I was presenting designs to a difficult client. You signed for a package from Caroline and Nate Vance on February 12th, 3 weeks after our wedding invitations were mailed via FedEx overnight. I don't remember every package I signed for. Bella crossed her arms. We get deliveries constantly. My brand partnerships alone generate dozens of shipments per week. Trinity sat up straighter, grasping at this explanation. That's true. Bella's business requires constant inventory management. She can't be expected to remember one random delivery from 8 months ago. Nate's cursor moved. The receipt disappeared, replaced by a screenshot of an email inbox. My mother's email inbox. Evidence 2, I said. The screen showed Trinity's Gmail account settings. Filters. A long list. But one filter sat at the top, marked with a red flag icon. Rule name, wedding block. I read aloud. If subject contains wedding and Caroline, then delete permanently. Skip inbox. Do not archive. The creation date, February 14th, 2 days after the invitations were delivered. This filter was installed from an IP address that traces back to Bella's device, I continued. Her iPhone specifically. The same device she uses to manage her Instagram account. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was the silence of a trap snapping shut. Trinity's face went pale. That's not possible. I never authorized anything like that. Of course you didn't. I met my mother's eyes. Bella has your password. She's had it for years. Remember when she set up your 2-factor authentication last Christmas? She told you it was for security. Preston stood slowly. He stared at Bella like he was seeing her for the first time. You hacked into your mother's email? I didn't hack anything. Bella's voice pitched higher. I have access because Mom asked me to help manage her correspondence. She gets overwhelmed by all the emails. I manage philanthropic contacts. Trinity's weekly charity board communications. Harrison Sterling's voice cut through the room. Bella helps me organize them by deleting emails about your daughter's wedding. Harrison was no longer uncomfortable. He was engaged now, focused. Bella stood abruptly, her chair scraping. Fine. Yes, I hid the invitations, but I did it to protect Mom and Dad. The room froze. She was pivoting. Her expression shifted from defensive to aggrieved. Her eyes filled with tears. Her voice shook, but not with fear, with righteous indignation. You sent those invitations last minute, she continued, voice trembling, for some shabby vineyard in Texas. Dad has high blood pressure. Mom worries constantly about image, about what people think. I saw that location you chose, Caroline. That rustic barn aesthetic. And I was afraid. Afraid they'd be humiliated. Afraid they'd spend the whole trip stressing about appearances. She wiped her eyes. So, Yes, I hid them. I threw them away. I did it out of love. I was trying to protect our parents from embarrassment. Trinity inhaled sharply. I watched her expression shift. Saw her reaching for this new narrative like a drowning person grabbing driftwood. You were protecting us. Of course, I was. Bella's voice cracked. Caroline always does things her own way, never considering how it reflects on the family. I couldn't let you suffer through some subpar wedding just because she refuses to maintain our standards. It was brilliant in a horrible way. She'd reframed herself from villain to hero in 30 seconds flat. Malicious act became protective sacrifice. Lie became love. Preston's frown deepened. He wasn't buying it. But my parents were already softening, already finding the explanation they wanted to believe. I didn't panic. I didn't rage. I didn't give Bella the satisfaction of seeing me unravel. Instead, I smiled. It was a smile full of pity. The kind you give a child who's trying to convince you the dog ate their homework when you can see the torn pages in the trash. Protecting them, I repeated softly. That's your story. It's the truth. Bella lifted her chin. Then why, I said, each word deliberate, did you throw the invitations in the recycling bin instead of hiding them in a drawer? Bella blinked. What? If you were protecting Mom and Dad, if you were worried about their feelings, you would have hidden the invitations somewhere safe, somewhere you could retrieve them later if needed. You would have preserved them carefully, just in case your plan went wrong. I gestured to the screen, where Nate had already queued the next file. But you didn't do that, did you? Preston turned to Bella. Really? Look at her, did you? I was upset. Bella said quickly. I wasn't thinking clearly. That's interesting, I said. Because the video footage suggests you were thinking very clearly. I nodded to the screen. Nate clicked play. The video quality was stunning. Crystal clear footage from the front door camera, mounted above the entrance with a perfect view of the porch and driveway. Timestamp: February 12th. 10:14 a.m. The FedEx truck pulled into frame. The driver climbed out, carrying a blue package. He rang the doorbell. Bella appeared 30 seconds later. She was wearing yoga pants and a cropped hoodie, her hair in a high ponytail. She smiled at the driver, signed the tablet, accepted the package. The driver left. Bella looked down at the package. I watched her read the return address label. Caroline and Nate Vance. Her expression changed. The smile vanished. Something cold and sharp took its place.
She didn't look worried.
She didn't look protective. She looked furious. Bella glanced around, checking if anyone was watching. Then she walked to the side of the house where the recycling bins sat behind a decorative lattice screen. She didn't hesitate, didn't pause, didn't open the package. She just hurled it into the bin like she was throwing out garbage. The 4 velvet boxes I'd wrapped so carefully, probably crushed. The invitations I'd lettered by hand, bent and creased. She didn't look back, just wiped her hands on her pants and walked inside. The video ended. The dining room stayed silent. Even the fire in the hearth seemed to hold its breath. Preston's face had gone blank. Deliberately blank. The expression of someone watching their entire future collapse. There's your protection, I said quietly. There's your love. The dining room held its breath. I watched Preston's face cycle through expressions too fast to name. Confusion, realization, disgust. He stood so abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood. The sound was sharp enough to make my mother flinch. You threw your sister's wedding invitations in the trash. His voice was quiet, which somehow made it worse. Because you were afraid of sharing the spotlight. Bella reached for his arm. Preston, I can explain. He jerked away from her touch. You gave her a book about dying alone when you knew she was married. He stared at Bella like he was seeing her for the first time. I cannot marry a monster. The word hung in the air. Monster. Bella's face crumpled. You don't understand. She's always. You ruined everything. I'll destroy you. I'll tell everyone what you did, how you manipulated.
No.
The word came out soft, but it stopped her mid-sentence. I stood slowly, smoothing my dress. You won't. Bella's voice climbed toward hysteria. I have 2 million followers. I know Massachusetts law prohibits secret audio recording. She thought she'd found an escape route. However, I paused, letting the words settle. The CCTV footage of you dumping that FedEx package? That's evidence of federal mail tampering. Title 18, United States Code, Section 1708. Up to 5 years in federal prison. The color drained from Bella's face. If you dare speak one lie about me on social media, that video and a lawsuit go straight to the police and your brand sponsors. I tilted my head. I wonder how Dior and Cartier will feel about their ambassador being investigated for federal crimes. Bella collapsed back into her chair. The sound that came out of her wasn't quite a sob, wasn't quite a scream. It was the sound of someone's carefully constructed world imploding. My mother sat frozen. My father stared at the table. I reached for the cream-colored gift box, the one containing that horrible app membership and that cruel book. I picked it up with both hands and walked around the table. Bella flinched when I approached. I placed the box directly in front of her, right next to Preston's abandoned engagement ring.
Keep it, I said.
You need it more than I do now. The words tasted like freedom. I turned toward the door. Harrison and Preston were already in the foyer. As I passed Harrison, he gave me a single nod.
Respect, maybe.
Or approval. It didn't matter which. Behind me, I heard my mother's voice. Thin and desperate. Caroline, wait. We can fix this. We can. But I was already walking through the foyer, past the marble staircase where Bella and I posed for Christmas photos as children. Through the massive oak doors that closed behind me with a final, definitive thud. The December air hit my face like cold water.
Clean.
Sharp. My Uber was waiting. Logan Airport, I confirmed. As we pulled away, I allowed myself one last look back at the Montgomery estate. Every window blazed with light, but from here, it looked empty. A beautiful shell with nothing living inside. I pulled out my phone and video called Nate. His face filled the screen. Is it done? He asked. It's done. Mom's heating up soup for you. His smile was soft, warm, everything that house wasn't. Let's go home. Home. Not the place I was born, but the place where I'm loved. Yeah, I said, and my voice only shook a little. Let's go home. 3 days later, I was unpacking groceries in our Austin kitchen when the FedEx truck pulled up. Through the window, I watched the driver jog to the porch, skin a package, jog back. The box sat there, square and flat. I knew what it was before I opened it. I could practically smell my father's desperation through the cardboard. Inside, a check for $50,000. The number seemed obscene, written in my father's careful architect's print. The note was brief, typed on his business letterhead, like this was just another transaction. I'm sorry. Please stay silent about the contract. I stood there, holding $50,000, and I thought about the girl who would have cashed this check. The one who showed up on Christmas Eve still hoping. The one who saved their chairs at her wedding.
She's gone.
I tore the check in half. Then quarters. Then confetti. My phone was already in my hand. I arranged the pieces on the granite counter. Photographed them. Opened the family group chat. Mom. Dad. I typed. I don't sell my silence. I'm gifting it to you, for free, as a parting gift. Do not contact me again. My thumb hovered over the send button for maybe 3 seconds. Then I pressed it. The message showed delivered. Then read. Someone started typing, stopped, started again. I didn't wait to see what they'd say. I scrolled to the top of the chat, tapped the settings icon, and found the words I'd been looking for. Leave group. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Leave. New Year's Eve arrived wrapped in Seattle rain and the smell of Nate's mother's famous pot roast. His family crowded into their living room, laughing, arguing about what movie to watch before the countdown. His sister stole the remote. His nephew spilled grape juice on the carpet. His mother hugged me tight, and I felt the weight of the sapphire brooch on her coat pressing against my shoulder.
Real. Solid.
An actual heirloom, passed down with love instead of obligation. Come on, Nate said, taking my hand. Let's get some air before the fireworks. We stepped onto the back porch. The Space Needle glowed in the distance, and the city hummed with celebration. Nate wrapped his arm around my waist, and I leaned into him, breathing in rain and cedar and freedom. "Any regrets?" he asked quietly. I thought about the empty chairs, the hidden invitations, the cruel gift, the check torn into pieces. Not one. The first firework exploded overhead, gold sparks against a black sky. Nate's family cheered from inside, and through the window, I could see them raising glasses, pulling each other into hugs. I wasn't the Montgomery daughter anymore. I was Caroline Vance, architect of landscapes, and now, finally, architect of my own life. I cleared the weeds. I burned out the rot. And here in this garden, something real is growing. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever had to expose someone you loved for their true colors? Tell me what you think. I really want to know.